Apple is green. And anything that is Android is yellow. And if it's Android that has been modified for Barnes & Noble, it's teal. And if it's Android that has been modified for Amazon, for Kindle, it's gray. Because I had a feeling we might get confused of whether we're talking Apple, Android, Kindle, you know. And don't even get me started on Windows. We're not going there. This is Clash of the Titans, Android versus Apple apps. So if you're interested in Microsoft products, wrong section. Anyway, the reason I'm doing this is partially because of Dan Dyer's request that we produce a YouTube video on this subject. So you are all going to be part of a moment in history that you can relive anytime you want to online. And because many schools and parents are asking us about Google Android, Barnes & Noble Nook, and Amazon Kindle apps due to the lower cost of these devices compared with Apple. Everybody's heard about the success of Apple in the classroom. A student comes and says, I have a Galaxy phone, what can I do? So that's what this is about. I want to start by saying these are some resources. They're not the only ones, but if I gave you all of them, it would be too much. Georgia Tech has a Tools for Life that is not an annual conference, but we stole their name for our conference. Tools for Life is their resource website, and on Georgia Tech Tools for Life, you will find a great app finder that's very helpful for special ed. And what you can do with that one, what I like about it, is you can click on a box that says, just show me Apple apps for communication, or just show me Android apps for reading, or just, you know, so you can select among different categories. App Crawler is an app discovery engine that's very powerful. It's a little bit overwhelming because it's a big area. But App Finder does a great job narrowing things down if you know what you're looking for. AppleVis.com is my favorite place to go for information about apps for blind and visual impairment, which is what BVI stands for. And then the last one, AndroidAccess.net, is the same thing as AppleVis, but it's for Android. So if you're an Appleholic, you would go to AppleVis, and if you're an Androidaholic, you would go to AndroidAccess.net to see what is best for blind and visual impairment. Any questions on that? Okay. Multi-platform apps below are multicolored. And that means you can get it on anything that it has a color for. So if you see all four colors, it'll run on all four platforms. Is anyone in this room colorblind? Everything blind. Very good. Well, that's why if you have a screen reader and you download this as an electronic document, after everything that's colored, you're going to see or hear something in brackets that tells you that it's Apple only, or it's Android Apple, or it's Android Nook, etc. So your screen reader will pick up those differences in color.
For Apple?
All of the above. Okay, so I'm going to start with apps for alternative and augmentative communication. Raise your hand if you have someone you know that might use an app like that. 1, 2, 3. Oh, no, you're just doing hair, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. All right, so I think I saw 4 hands. Apps for communication, for a person who cannot speak. I'm talking, I'm on this line here, but I'm about to move to that line if that helps. That's why I put my outline up there, so you can follow along. So those of us in the technology business call these apps AAC. Alternative and augmentative communication. Alternative communication means can't speak at all, they need an alternate. Augmentative communication means they can speak, but no one understands them, so they need something to augment their speech. Anyway, the most popular one...
I've got a question. You know, about the star, the 4-star, you know, is that out of 5, or
Yes.
How do you decide the star rating?
I didn't. It's 4 stars out of 5, and that is user ratings on the internet. If you go through Google search to see what was the average rating that people who bought this app gave it. So a certain number gives it a rating of 1 out of 5, which means I hated it. And a certain number gives 5 out of 5, it means it was perfect. And then then they just average all of those, and that's an average. So 4 is actually good. Anything that's 4 and up pleased most of the people who bought it. Okay, so Proloco is very popular in the schools right now. Any of you have any? You've used it. Anyone else? You've used it. You've used it. Good. The question is there anything comparable that you can run on an Android device? And there is. I also added to my list Acorn. It's brand new. It's just come out. Acorn's very cool. I'll show you both of these, and then we'll go to what you can do on Android. So obviously the coolest thing about Proloco to Go is a large number of voices you can select so that you can...
I need a break.
If you want to be Yoda, you can be Yoda. And this is picture-based communication, so you would navigate through it by a combination of pictures and words. For a person who has difficulty with just words, it's very helpful. The Acorn is brand new. It's AACORN. Anybody recognize what AAC means?
Accessible.
Alternative and augmentative communication. So it's AACorn.
Acorn?
It's Acorn, but they added the A because it's AAC. Anyway, what this does is this actually creates an interface that forces you to produce a sentence. So there is sentence building support in it. With Proloco, you can make a sentence or not. With this, you have to make a sentence. So you would start with starters. And I'm going to say, hi.
Hi. What is?
Now I have to put in something else.
Your name.
Oh, what is your name? Okay.
Hi is in a complete sentence. Be like hi, comma. What is your name?
What is... Oh, I don't know.
Still say it to me.
No, that's not what I wanted. Oh my goodness, I've painted myself into a corner now. Okay. So now to speak it.
Hi. What is?
All right. So what I did was, I'm working with a student right now who is nonverbal and is not interested in words. She's got very high receptive intelligence, very good comprehension of language. She might be the smartest kid in her school. She doesn't talk and she doesn't want to use words, but she cares a great deal about Disney musicals. So I've been selecting little bits and pieces out of Disney songs that she loves and putting them into vocabulary, and guess what? I got her eaten out of my hand. I love it. Exactly. So, it's not enough to give someone technology to make them like us. That's not the point. We use technology as a bridge to get to where that person is. And her world is full of music, and it's a beautiful world. All right. So, going back to this. What can we do with an Android device that's comparable to what we just looked at? Alexicom is a free app that runs on both. So if you happen to be in an Idaho school, free is very popular. And if you're using Alexicom, it wouldn't matter whether you're using an Apple device or an Android device, it'll work on either one. So that's a very good choice if you're just looking for some entry-level app that'll get you there with speech. Avaz is not cheap. It's a $150 app. It's a very good one, and it will run on both. It was designed for autism. They have a lower version. It's the demo version, but Avaz Pro is the version that you would want. Your hand is up, sir.
Is that $150 for the app? Is that a flat rate? Is there a monthly?
No, it's a flat rate. You pay it once and you own it for life. Avaz I put on this list because they say the next version that rolls out is going to have sentence building support in it, just like Acorn that I showed you. And the reason why we spent the $150 when we bought it is because we thought it had the support in the first place. So in India, their rules for advertising are a little different than here. This product came from India. It's very good, and it'll run on both platforms. I'm actually going to be using Avaz with this young girl with autism who has to have her language as music, because Proloco will not record songs. Avaz will. So I'm going to use it. And I don't want to put her on Acorn. They're going to be a little too restricted for her, so we're going to put her on Avaz, which will give her a much larger vocabulary. Acorn is intended for young children, and she's moving toward middle school where we want to give her the whole language. Anyway, sometimes these decisions are hard to make. You have to make them on the basis of who's going to use it, but also on the basis of what is the readiness of the support team to adopt that technology. You have to choose something that works for everyone. Okay, finally, down here in the blue, which we said was for Nook, JabTalk will run on anything that's Android or Nook. It's also a free one. It's not very good, but it has appropriate images for older kids and adults. And basically, you put custom vocabulary into it of what you need. It doesn't have stock phrases on it. You have to create them. Users gave it 4 stars. And I think that's probably because it was free and it worked okay. Then AA Speech Communicator is an Android app that runs on Kindle. And it's also free. It was the only one I found that will run on a Kindle. And something you have to bear in mind with Kindle is that only certain models have a speaker. So Kindle, if you get the basic model, is silent. So if you have a talking app, you can push all you want and you'll hear nothing because there's no speaker. But on a Kindle Fire, it will work fine. Kindle Fire has both microphone and speaker. Okay, I'm ready to move off of AC unless we have something from this group that you'd like to contribute to the discussion.
Can you give me that quote again? You don't use assistive technology for...
Oh, I just made that up on the spot. All right. We don't want our technology to make this other person just like us. And sometimes it's used that way, and then it becomes just one more disappointment in the life of the user. The point of technology is to create a bridge to that person, not to make them like us. So I'm not going to change the fact that this girl is not motivated by words. She probably never will be. I'm going to try to use music to create a bridge that will allow me into her world so she can talk to me with it. All right, BVI, blind and visual impairment. This is not my specialty area. Any of you who have a specialty in this area? in this room? Oh, I got off easy today. Okay, because this is an area where my skills are very modest. But the two that come the highest recommended on AppleVis, which I showed you earlier. AppleVis is where I go for opinions about blind and visual impairment apps for Apple. Voice Dream Reader got the highest marks. It was voted the single favorite Apple app of blind people on their website. Voice Dream Writer has just come out, and I'd like you to see it. Because it's brand new. It's so new, we don't have a rating for it yet. It's not rated, and it's not because of adult content. Oh, I have to... Okay, so this is Voice Dream Writer, and it has text-to-speech. That was working a moment ago. Okay, how many of you have the experience of your technology working perfectly at home? And then you try to show it to your mother. Okay, that just happened. Voice Dream Writer has got a way to look up words where I can go to a phonetic word speller
Such as,
and I just wrote phonetically nitrogen, and it should be able to pull that up without any trouble. Give me the correct spelling. So it's got a phonetic spelling engine. Let's say I'm trying to remember something that we read in Macbeth, but I can't even think of the word right now. But we were reading Macbeth when that word came up. I could go in here and I could put in Macbeth. Oh, did I spell Macbeth wrong? Is it M-A-C? But I could put in Macbeth, and all these words pop up that by association are connected with that topic. And I could scroll through that and see if I can find the word I was looking for. So this is a new approach to dictionary that I have not seen used before. It's very helpful to a person who's having difficulty with writing. So these two apps got very high marks when I did my research on apps for reading, writing, and blind and visual impairment. Anyway, Voice Dream Reader is the familiar... where's reading? Oh, I don't even have it. I have it, but I didn't download it. So Voice Dream Reader is popular, but the writer, we just got the writer, and I just love it.
is there a natural way to launch that? Like on Mac, you can hit, I believe it's F7, and it'll automatically bring up the spell checker?
Well, what they have done on Writer is they've made it completely blind accessible, but you have to turn on the text-to-speech if you want to have that assistance. You just turn it on.
And then you can like arrow down and hit enter when you find the correct word.
Let's answer those questions privately instead of trying to go through that much detail in an overview course. Okay? So you and I meet separately later, and we'll go through it in detail. Sound okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyway, if you're going to go to Android, blind access gets more difficult. You can use Eloquence. Here's what I wanted. You can use Eloquence. It's Android only. It's $20. Uses the Pico free voices from SVox, and they're fine. The voices are all right. You can turn it, you have to go on into the full settings menu, under applications, under reading, and then there's a checkbox for text-to-speech. You would check that so that it would talk to you. Some versions may say enable accessibility currently in beta. All right, that just means that they don't have the final version out yet. Anyway, when you start a book, it should start reading automatically. However, you may need to touch the screen to prompt it. Reviews of the voice are not very good. The voice is a little bit robotic. Okay? But the main complaint from Nook users is that the bookstore app is not accessible. So even though if they have the book on their device, it will read to them, they cannot actually obtain a new book. So they would have to have a sighted person download the book for them, and then it will read it to them. So the reviews aren't really good for Nook. Eloquence is better for Android than Nook. And then I mentioned the problem with Kindles. The older Kindles have no speaker, which means there's no text-to-speech. You could turn it on, but you wouldn't hear anything because there's no speaker, except for the Kindle Keyboard 3G and the Kindle Fire. Both of those will read to you. A lot of blind users prefer to use a Kindle app on an iPad because the iPad is accessible. Okay, and that's about all I wanted to say about differences for blind and visual impairment. Any comments from the group on that? Because if you have experience in this area, we want to know what you know. Okay, reading and writing support for dyslexia. This is one of my favorite areas to work in the school because the technology is so good now. There are lots of them, but I'm going to just show you a couple. iWordQ for iWordQ. Oh, it doesn't show. So it's I, word, and the letter Q. One of the things I like about this is you've got a reading mode and a writing mode. And when you go to the reading mode, when you go to the reading mode, there are 3 settings. So if the writing is difficult, you can move it to a setting that gives more support for a dyslexic reader. Or if the writing is simple, they can move it to a setting that has less support. So the least amount of support would be this one.
Hong Kong, elaborately tattooed, adorned in rock, star jewelry, and flaunting a shock of flamingo pink hair. Chan Mingfei usually sells plastic models of movie superheroes at his shop in Mongkok.
So it just continuously reads, and that's all the support you get. But if you were finding that you were not really understanding the content very well, you could
Hong Kong, elaborately tattooed, adorned in rock, star jewelry, and flaunting a shock of flamingo pink hair. Chan Mingfei usually sells plastic models of movie superheroes at his shop in Mongkok, a teeming, neon-soaked part of Hong Kong.
Now, I can stay on that sentence as long as I want. Every time I tap it, it'll just keep repeating that sentence until I feel like, okay, I'm ready to move on to the next sentence. And then step by step, what this does is the usual setting is when you tap it, it'll read this sentence. And when you tap it again, it'll stop. But when you tap it again, it'll read the next sentence. I especially like that setting for students that have an attention problem.
Attention or intention?
Attention problem. The reason why is their mind will wander from the subject if it just keeps reading. But if they have to come back and touch it to hear each sentence, touch it to hear the next sentence, touch it to hear the next sentence, that process will draw their attention back to the content of their reading. So it's very, very helpful when there's an attention problem to have something physical the student has to do to hear the next part. Go ahead.
So you said if you tap it once, it'll read it. If you tap it twice, it'll stop. If you tap it 3 times, like if you tap it again, it'll read the next line. What if you double tap it? Will it just keep reading?
We'll cover that, you and I alone together afterwards. Okay? the main point is that there were 3 different ways to do the reading on this app, which I appreciated. There's also strong writing support here. I'm going to move to the next one, which is made by Text Help. It's called I Read Write. The one we just looked at was a $28.99 app. This one is $19.99. It's a little less expensive. I've set it up for some contrast. And what I like about this app is the quality of the spelling assistance. It's easier. I can hear it before I put it in. See, when I tap that word, I can hear it and decide, is that what I wanted to say? When I tap it the second time, it goes in. Or I can change the setting where I have to swipe it to put it in.
Time.
And then you can play it back.
The combination of word predictions and silence makes this easier to see.
Oh, my ear is going to catch a mistake that my eye just missed. And your ear is a much better proofreader than your eye is. And so playing that back, the text-to-speech allows you to catch those errors. You'll hear it. You'll hear it when there's a mistake. Anyway, these are very good level of support for reading and writing. On the Android platform, these are the AAC apps we mentioned earlier that will run on Android. And one of them is the TTS Reader. This one where you would just type in what you want to say and it will say it for you. And the reason why I want to show you this is because this is one area where Apple cannot touch Android in the area of choice for keyboards. If it's important to you to have a better keyboard, Android is a better choice to you than Apple. Because with Apple, you're stuck with a keyboard that's there. You can use an app that gives you a different keyboard. Then you can only type within that app, and you have to cut and paste it into something else. On Android, you can install any keyboard you want. These are very versatile. And what I like about how powerful it is oh, I didn't mean to shut it off.
With this method, I can type much faster.
So what I really like about that is that there was a partnership that was made between the company that was called Swipe, that allows you to do this, to write your words, and Android. And Apple didn't get in on the action. So as a result, it's very difficult to get a Swipe type keyboard for Apple. They do have them, but again, you have to type into the app and then cut and paste it into the application. It's an extra step, and that's a bother. So again, if you're going to be doing all of your typing, you can either use a Bluetooth keyboard and type that way, 10 key, but if it's important to you to be able to type quickly right on your tablet, I think Android beats Apple by a mile. Okay? Yes?
I thought with the new iPhones that in the last couple months that they put Swipe on their phone.
I haven't seen it yet, and I hope that's true because I use Apple phones. I hope that's true, and I love the Swipe keyboards.
My Windows phone has Swipe. So I'm doing the tablet.
Right, so Apple was the one company
The
that...
new phone says that it could be, if you have to go in and change it personal.
Anyway, this was a free download called SwiftKey Keyboard, the one I was just using. It's got lots of features, very feature-rich. And if you don't like the red one that I picked, you can just choose another one and go with blue, purple, white, black, iridescent, whatever. So it's very nice to have that kind of flexibility in your keyboard. Swift key. Yeah, the Swift key will only work on Android. I think so. I think Swift key is just Android. Ginger will work either on Apple or on Android. So I have this on both devices, but I'll show it to you on Android. Oh, I got to join. No, I'm not going to join now. Ginger will produce some Ginger will give you some grammar support in addition to just spelling. Dan, you've used Ginger quite a bit, haven't you?
Yeah, it depends if you buy the import version of the free one, then it's like a trainer where it'll kind of train you on some of your common errors. But I use this mainly just as a spell checker, and it'll pick up some phonetic words that are wrong. It does provide text to speech.
Okay. So Ginger runs on both. Let's move down to the next subject. Work here, I read write, looked at Ginger. Ginger runs on Apple as well from the app. And FB Reader is a free download for Android that's very good. Very good ratings on that, 4.5 stars. Geometer Plus makes it. And you have to do 2 downloads. You first get the FB Reader, and then you download the TTS Plus plugin to go with it, and that gives it text-to-speech. And people who like to use a reader to read to them out loud gave that really good ratings. They use the a cappella voices, by the way, and those are a higher quality voice. More pleasant to listen to. Google Drive by Android, by Google, actually runs on Android, it runs on Apple, it runs on Nook, it runs on Kindle, it's always free, it runs on your laptop or your home PC. And if you need something that has the flexibility of being cross-platform, so you can work on it at school and work on it at the office and work on it at home and work on it at the public library, it's hard to beat Google Drive for a free product. And you can put your documents on there. You do have to download extra software. It's not expensive, but the complexity goes up just a little bit. So it's a little more complex to make it accessible, but it's pretty good for a free platform. How many of you are using Google Drive? You are. How are you using it, if you raised your hand?
My whole district moved to Google. So I'm using Word. Microsoft products in Word.
What are you doing with Google Drive?
Our students share documents. We use we use Excel spreadsheets. We use the spreadsheets and we're sharing those. We have shared folders between teachers for information that we need to share, and our students in high school do as well. So.
And you guys have a Windows PC environment at school?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Google Drive's good for that. Other ways you're using it?
We're using it a lot the same, their schools. We have one-to-one devices now, and they're all Lenovo's. They're Windows-based. And our teachers are using Google Classroom a lot. They're also doing a lot of sharing of documents, students working together on documents, easy to comment on documents. What else, Gage? Yeah, I'd say the sharing component is what makes it strong, but we still use Word and all those products too. We still teach those to the students. We have classes, technology classes that teach those also.
Okay, good. Other comments about Google Drive? And again, right, Chromebooks cost a lot less than laptops, and if you're already using a Google environment, you just open it and you're online. It's great. The only limitation we've seen with the Chromebooks in schools is bandwidth. You get a classroom of 20 or 30 kids, and they all open their Chromebook at the same moment, and the bandwidth goes down. And then you can't use a Chromebook. you know, unless the Wi-Fi is good. Yeah.
Our school has refused to use Google Drive.
Okay.
Oh, I have one other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Google Drive has a feature that you can try online. So if you lose your internet connection, you can still work on the documents. But you have to play with the setting in Google Drive to do that, but that's kind of a nice component.
I'm sure that works on a PC or a laptop just fine, but can you do that on a Chromebook?
We don't have any Chromebooks.
Yeah, I think if you have a Chromebook and your Wi-Fi goes out, you've just got a pretty picture, and that's it. Okay, dictation and virtual assistants. Did a little research on this subject. Apple iOS provides strong dictation capability in any app that brings up the keyboard. You might not love the keyboard, but you have to love the dictation. It's really good. It also makes calls, texts, emails, appointments, reminders, sets alarms, opens apps, opens web pages, all by voice. You just hold down the home button and you tell Siri what you want. Once in a while, Siri will not connect, and she'll say, "Sorry, but I am unable to help you right now. Try it again later." Usually that means I need to move closer to a window and try it over again. There is some improvement in quality when you wear an earbud, mic, or a Bluetooth headset. I have one here. So this is Apple's hands-free device, so you can operate your telephone safely on the freeway. And the microphone is right there. So if you put this in your ear, the microphone is right next to your mouth. You don't have to use both of these. So you can listen for the road with one ear and listen for your phone with the other ear and drive safely. And when I want to make a phone call, I just press this button and tell Siri who I want to call. If that person's in my contacts, bing, I'm talking to them. It's very nice. So that's Apple. Apple Siri gives voice control to some, but not all, operating system functions, searching and calling. You turn Siri on in the Settings app and assign permissions to get the most from it. So let's compare that with what Android can do. Android operating system is not quite as good for dictation, but it is quite a bit better for access to the operating system. So you get simple dictation in any app that brings up the keyboard, but it's more suited to text fields, text messages, email, short stuff. You're not going to use it for an English paper. The commands for inserting characters and formatting are limited to basic punctuation and paragraph marks. That's it. You can put in commas, periods, semicolons, and start a new line or a new paragraph, and that's about it. It does integrate the swipe keyboard, which I demonstrated, which now has merged with the maker of Dragon, Naturally Speaking, the Nuance company. So Swipe, Dragon, and Nuance have all come together into the keyboards, so the dictation is Nuance dictation on a swipe keyboard. And it's seamless. I love it. So if you're an Android user, you just can't beat having a Nuance swipe keyboard. It does everything. You still have to purchase and install them. Okay? So the nice thing about the Apple operating system is it comes working. You don't install anything. It just comes out of the box. You just turn it on. Google Now is a player in this market as a virtual assistant. And the users say that Google Now is superior to finding anything. So if you're just doing a voice search on the internet, it's the best thing out there. It's not quite as good at some of those other functions. It's harder to set up your voice control, but here's how you do it. You enable the additional permissions in the settings. First, you enable offline speech recognition. You go into your accounts and privacy settings in the main settings app to enable location, history, reporting, web history, and contact recognition. And then it can start doing some of the stuff that Siri does natively. It's a little bit of work. The reason why I gave you the link to this document that we're reading is because I thought you might want to read this again later in the privacy of, you know, your office with your device in front of you. For better dictation, Dictadroid, which runs on Kindle or Android, is just $4. And it's good enough that lawyers use it. Full professional dictaphone capability, audio note-taking, can be used as a session recorder for musicians. So you can use Dictadroid to record classes that you're attending and get a recording of it. 4.5 stars, so very high ratings on that. If you're more interested in controlling your droid and not so much in documents, you might consider Utter, the beta version. It's quite good. I downloaded it and used it. I was pleased with it. I think I have Utter here. Here's Utter. Never mind. I don't have it set up well enough that I'm going to demonstrate that. Nuance makes a product called Dragon Microphone. And you can put that on any of these devices. You can put it on Apple, you can put it on Android, and very, very helpful. Instead of having Dragon Naturally Speaking installed on your PC and using the headset and dictating onto your laptop, you can just dictate into your smartphone and it sends it to your PC. So that's a very helpful application if you're doing dictation and you're like me, you like to kind of walk around while you're dictating. Some people dictate in the car. It will upload your dictation to the cloud and then you can pull it onto your device later. If you're using the Google app, which runs on everything, any device that has a microphone, let's go back. If you're using the Google app on any device that has a microphone, you can just say, "Okay, Google," and wake it up. You have to give permission to it, but after you've assigned permission, it's listening, and if it hears you say, "Okay, Google," it wakes up. Right, you'll hear a little noise, and then you can give it commands for accessing different functions. You could make an appointment or send an email or whatever you want to do with it. Dictation on Nook and Kindle, if it has a microphone, is the same as for Android. So you can dictate on your Kindle to a PC with the Dragon Remote Microphone app, or you can purchase a Nuance Swipe keyboard and install it for dictation when the keyboard is active. Dragon Remote Microphone got 2.5 stars, so not too many happy customers on that. Nuance Swipe got 4 stars, and so I would rather use that. By the way, all current devices require connection to Wi-Fi for reliability. So offline speech recognition is usually very limited. If you're going to do dictation, you need to be somewhere near a Wi-Fi radio. Don't try it in your car. Okay, what about note-taking? How much time have we got? Where are we at for time? 5 minutes? Okay. I did not expect to get through the whole handout, which is why I made it available to you. Because what we have left is note-taking, schedule and homework support, and math homework apps, hearing amplification, and art and drawing. Anybody have a favorite of those? Because we've got time to just do one.
I've struggled with math.
Math it is. That's one of my favorite subjects for assistive technology. Oh, this one deserves an honorable mention. If you have a student who is lazy or forgetful, the Carrot To Do Talking Task List by Apple for $2.99. I'm sorry you can't get that on Android. Is really fun because it's like a game. And if you complete your tasks on time and check them off, it's your best friend. And if you get a little behind and you haven't checked everything off on your task list, it turns into a sadistic monster. All right, math homework apps. The best math problem solvers are still on the internet. So if you have internet access, you can navigate to a web math site and type a problem in and get step-by-step help. But the popularity for apps is such that people would rather use a crummy app than go to a good website. So we'll look at some of those. The Y Homework Math Solver runs on Android and Apple. It's free. It's a standalone app that is especially helpful for fractions and algebra. And it gives step-by-step explanations. Users give that 4+ stars. Photomath is free. Only gets 3.5 stars. But this is for a student who cannot correctly write the math problem or type it. You just use the camera. You need enough light. You photograph it. And if the app is able to recognize a math problem, it will walk you through to an answer. Okay?
Will it give you the answer eventually?
It does. It does. So the question is there a responsible way to use this? And is there an irresponsible way to use this?
That makes sense where school wouldn't allow.
Do we have any teachers in the room that would like to comment on that? Okay. You know, when a student is absolutely stopped, I'd rather give them a free problem and help them work through that and let them go ahead and finish rather than have them just give up and turn on the TV. Your hand's up.
For like the photo one, how, I guess, what level does it go up to? I mean, does it cover algebra and calculus, or is it just simple?
If you want something that covers all levels of math, I recommend mathway.com, and that's an internet website. All the really good math homework sites are internet. So right off the top, if you're working through an app, it's not going to be half of what you can get on the internet. I just rather open up the web browser, go to a place like mathway.com, and get solid help than mess with any of these. But the question is often asked, well, I want an app. Give me an app, and here's what they are, and that's how they're rated. SciMath actually was pretty good because it's an app that just opens a web page, and so it's got a web-based math solver on it, which is going to be higher quality in the first place. So I liked SciMath, and they got an impressive 4.7 stars. Okay, so I'm not going to cover all the subjects that are in this, but you know where to get it, idahoat.org. If you have specific questions, I'm going to be here today and tomorrow, and would love to go through in more detail with you. Thanks very much for coming.